dictates its path, his path. There's nail in my toilet. There is no script. I do have a plot. I know how it starts and how it ends, the entire series, and I created a little one paragraph synopsis of each chapter, which is a 12-part miniseries. But there's no actual script, so everything just flows, and I can stare at a blank page until he speaks to me. He says, all right, this is what I want to do. The duty does speak to me. And so once that magic starts happening, I just let it run. I run with it. So what I might perceive the comic book to be today might end up taking on a life of its own tomorrow. So here's Duty in a cowboy uniform, and it's funny because I use a a Sharpie, and I remember I was inking a book for George Medina called Rush 5377, and I pulled out my Sharpies, and he panicked. He says, "What are you doing? You're gonna destroy my book. Who uses a Sharpie to ink?" And I use Sharpies all the time because it's just a strong, good black ink, and you could get the fine point Sharpies, and the thick, it comes in all sizes, so it works out perfect for me and what I need to do. And I do use pens, different types of pens. I use microns, and I also use but yeah, I got the Staedtler as well. I have Staedtler pencils, and I have the Staedtler ink pens. So use various things. So right now, I just played around. I created Duty. He's in the cowboy scene. He's standing there, and now where is he standing? So now I decided, let me just give him a backdrop. And this is basically just me having fun. And does this scene end up in the book? No, because right now I'm just playing, having fun, putting Duty in all different types of scenarios and scenes. And I remember we were at the San Diego Comic-Con, and this father is walking with his child, and he says, there's nail in my toilet. There's a big banner behind us that says nail in my toilet, and there's another banner that says, "Hi, I'm Duty from Uranus." And the father's screaming at me, "You should be ashamed of yourself." And I was like, "You're at a comic book convention. You need to grow up or go home." You know what I mean? I said, get a life. You're taking everything too literally. It's, "Hi, I'm Duty from Uranus." His name is Duty. He's an alien, and he's from the planet Uranus. The planet. And this guy takes it to the next level. That's the punchline. That's what makes it so funny. But, what are you going to do? But then on the flip side of it, I had this woman. She must have been about 70 years old, and she bought every issue. And, we took a picture with her, and she absolutely adored it, And the kids love it. And, so, you never know. There's always a critic. There's always somebody out there that's going to, come after you. But here's me working out the kinks. So, and this is, there's nail in my toilet, and I'm going to go into a few other character designs on some of the other books that I've created as we go on with this episode of the comic show. But yeah, you can use any type of art pads if you just want to flesh out stories or come up with ideas. And what I use here is it's a standard 100-sheet spiral book at 8.5 by 11. And it's a sketchbook, and it's easy because you can turn the pages easily. They don't rip out as easy. And the book, I guess, is called Bien Fang, and you can get this at any Pearl Paint store. So right now, what I'm going to go into is Forbidden. I'm going to start thumbnailing Sin, and Sin is one of the main characters for Forbidden. And right now, I'm just going to work on the head and the eyes, and I work my way around that. And it's just going to be a standard face, front shot, where he's facing the camera, and just to show you exactly what I do, because I can draw in various styles. Although, right now people assume that because I'm not illustrating Forbidden, that I stay away from that type of art. I don't do it for any purpose. It's just a lot more detail, and Anibal is a terrific artist, and he can handle that, and he brings Forbidden to a new world, and he gives life to it. And I just prefer to draw cartoony styles. But I'm just to show you exactly how I came up with the concept and the designs for Forbidden. And the backstory behind Forbidden is that I was many years ago, before the current team of Crazy Comics, I was working with a different group of people, and one of the guys, his idea of creating a story was putting as many characters as possible into the story and making it as complicated as he could, and it just drove me nuts. So I wrote Forbidden as a means to show him that you can write a story that has heart and a soul, without being too complicated and following trends. Just to write, writing from your heart. And that's where Forbidden came from. And I started illustrating I came up with the character designs and all the names and everything. And I wrote the Bible for it, the whole backstory. And I just put it away. I felt it was for me. It was an accomplishment for me. And, I loved it, and I just put it away. And I said one day I'll get to it and I'll draw it. But at that time I was illustrating Cosmic Wars, which you'll see one of the main characters as we go on with the show. But and I left it, in the crates, and then we fast forward a couple years later, and that's when we met Anibal Arroyo. We were at the Empire Fan Fest, a comic book convention. It was a bad convention for us because it was a Star Wars convention, and we were comic book creators at a Star Wars convention, and we weren't illustrating anything for Star Wars, so no one would stop at our table. And two good things came out of that convention. One was the fact that we were interviewed for a video documentary called Inkswell, and we appeared on that, and it was in many film festivals, and it's available on DVD. And we also met Anibal Arroyo, who showed us his portfolio, and we eventually brought him on to the Crazy Comics team. And here is his sin. He's one of the main characters of Forbidden. And so I saw Anibal's art style, and I knew it was a perfect fit for Forbidden. And I gave him the script, and bam, he worked his magic, and it just came out beautifully. So right now I'm using the Sharpie again, that Sharpie that George Medina hates, but it works for me. It works fits my purpose. So this is Sin, and the story behind the Forbidden is that centuries ago there's a great race of people, and a group of hunters went off and entered the Forbidden Forest, and the dwellers of that forest came to the village and said, "Give us back those who desecrated our land, or suffer the wrath." And of King. So they refused to give up their soldiers. So the next morning, when all the hunters and the village people woke up, they were dying from the sun. And so those who escaped went underground into caverns, never to be seen again. Now, fast forward many years later, the world has evolved around them, and they still remain underground in caverns. No one even knows of their existence. So here comes Sin, challenging his father, saying, his father, Lord Vox, he says, "Father, how do you know this curse still exists?" And the father banishes his son and imprisons him because he says, "How dare you challenge me and try to risk the lives of our people? We're not going to surface. We're not going to resurface." So his son commits the ultimate sin. He commits murder to escape, and here's Sin in a front shot. And so begins the journey, because now the descendants of the creepers that cast the curse on them, David Hunter, who's this big mogul, he's the descendant of him, and now the son of Vox has risen and to destroy his plans to take over the world. So now, so begins the journey. And now we're going to Cosmic Wars. Cosmic Wars has always been our flagship title. And I apologize to all you fans out there that looking for the third issue, but I haven't had time to get to it. But here right now I'm going to flesh out Gorf, who's the main character, and I'm going to put him in a side shot. One of those commanding poses where you have one leg up, on an object, and a leg down, and you're doing this powerful pose. Well, that's what I'm going to do with Gorf here. And I created Cosmic Wars when I was a kid. I was about 12 years old, and I was influenced by a lot of things. Growing up, Alf and Fraggle Rock, all things Jim Henson and Spielberg and Lucas, and I grew up with some great cartoons as a child. So I created Cosmic Gorf, and at the time it was called The Adventures of Cosmic Gorf, and it just over the years you just started evolving into something bigger. And as I got older, I always, every time I would, it's almost like every 2 years I would draw something new. But I always went back to Cosmic Wars. So my wife tells me one day, she goes, "Why don't you just draw it, put it into a comic book?" And so I said, all right. So I fleshed it out, and I created the history and the timeline and all the characters and how they